Something was wrong. I stared at the pills in my hand, my heart racing. The shape was slightly different, the color a shade lighter than usual. After taking the same medication for my chronic condition for 5 years, I knew exactly what my pill should look like. Mom, I called out, my voice shaking. There's something wrong with my medication. My mother appeared in the doorway of my bathroom, her expression already set in that familiar mix of irritation and dismissal. Behind her, my sister Sarah lingered, a strange look flickering across her face. Emma, not this again, Mom sighed, running her fingers through her perfectly styled hair. You're being dramatic. Those are your regular pills from the same pharmacy we've always used. I shook my head, holding out the pills. No, look at them. They're different. Someone's tampered with them. Sarah stepped forward, her voice dripping with concern that didn't quite reach her eyes.
You're paranoid.
Why would anyone mess with your medication? Maybe you're just stressed about your promotion. The promotion? Of course, she'd bring that up. At 26, I'd just been made head pharmacist at Memorial Hospital, beating out Sarah's fiancé, Mark, for the position. The tension had been thick ever since, with Sarah making snide comments about family loyalty and how I should have stepped aside. I know my medication, I insisted, placing the pills carefully in a small plastic bag. I'm getting these tested. Enough, Mom snapped. Your sister is right. You're letting work stress make you paranoid. Sarah would never hurt you. She's your sister, for heaven's sake. Sarah's face was a perfect mask of innocence. I can't believe you'd even think that, Emma. After everything I've done for you during your illness. Everything she'd done? I wanted to laugh. Sarah had turned my chronic condition into her own personal martyrdom story, constantly telling people how hard it was to have a sick sister, how she had to sacrifice so much to help care for me. The truth? She'd never once attended my doctor's appointments, never picked up my prescriptions, never sat with me through the bad days. But our parents saw what they wanted to see. Perfect Sarah, the devoted sister, the selfless daughter. Sarah, who'd followed Mom into real estate, who wore the right clothes, said the right things, and never caused any waves. I'm getting these tested, I repeated, firmer this time. And I'm checking the security footage. Security footage? Sarah's voice raised an octave. Why are you being like this? Mom threw her hands up in exasperation. That's it. Emma, you need to see your therapist again. This paranoia isn't healthy. Sarah loves you. She would never. Never what, Mom? I cut in. Never mess with my medication? Never risk my health? Just like she never spread rumors about Mark's inappropriate behavior when he turned her down in college? Just like she never accidentally deleted my college acceptance emails because she was afraid I'd get into better schools than her. Sarah's face darkened. You're still holding on to those lies. Mom, see how she twists everything. I grabbed my car keys, the bag with the suspicious pills secure in my pocket. I'm going to the pharmacy. And this time, your perfect daughter act isn't going to work. Emma Marie Parker. Mom's voice followed me down the hallway. Don't you dare cause drama in this family. Your sister, my sister, I called back, isn't as innocent as you think. The drive to Valley Grove Pharmacy was tense, my hands gripping the steering wheel too tightly. I'd worked there part-time during pharmacy school before landing the hospital position. The head pharmacist, Joe, had become a mentor and friend. As I pulled into the parking lot, my phone buzzed with texts from Sarah. You're being hysterical. Mom's really upset. Why do you always have to make everything about you? Mark says you're just jealous of our happiness. I silenced my phone and walked into the pharmacy, the familiar bell chiming above the door. Joe looked up from behind the counter, his friendly smile fading as he saw my expression. Emma, what's wrong? I placed the bag with the pills on the counter. Joe, I need to see the security footage from my last prescription pickup. And I need these tested. He frowned, examining the pills. These aren't what we dispensed. The shape is wrong. He looked closer. Emma, these aren't even the right medication. They look like common supplements just pressed to a similar size. My hands started shaking. Someone's been switching my medication, and I think I know who. Joe's expression hardened. Let me pull up the footage. When was your last pickup? 3 days ago. Sarah insisted on getting it for me, since she was in the area. The security footage would prove everything. But as Joe pulled up the video, neither of us was prepared for what we would see or how it would shatter my family's perfect facade forever. The security footage was crystal clear. Joe and I watched in silence as Sarah entered the pharmacy 3 days ago, her designer handbag swinging casually. She picked up my prescription, but instead of leaving, she moved to a quiet corner near the vitamin aisle. There, thinking no one was watching, she opened my prescription bottle and began methodically replacing my medications with what looked like over-the-counter supplements. My God, Joe whispered, pausing the footage. Emma, this is serious. She could have killed you. I felt numb. Even though I'd suspected it, seeing the proof was devastating. Joe fast-forwarded through more footage, showing Sarah making similar switches over the past month. She's been doing this for weeks, he said, his voice tight with anger. I'm calling the police. Wait, I said, though everything in me screamed for justice. I need copies of this footage first. My parents, they need to see this. Joe nodded grimly. I'll have to report this regardless. Tampering with prescription medication is a felony, but I'll give you 24 hours. As I drove home, the USB with the footage felt heavy in my pocket. My phone had exploded with messages from my family. Mom, your accusations are tearing this family apart. Dad, come home now. We need to discuss your behavior. Sarah, I'm really worried about your mental state, sis. Maybe we should consider inpatient care. That last message made my blood boil. Of course, Sarah would try to paint me as mentally unstable. She'd been laying that groundwork for years, subtly suggesting to our parents that my chronic condition had affected my mind. I pulled into our driveway, noticing Sarah's car already there.
Perfect.
Everyone would be present for this revelation. Walking into the living room, I found them waiting, Mom and Dad on the couch, Sarah perched elegantly in the armchair, all wearing expressions of concerned disappointment. Emma, Mom began, her voice dripping with forced patience, we've been talking, and we're worried about. Save it, I interrupted, pulling out my laptop. There's something you need to see. Sarah stood up, suddenly alert. More paranoid accusations? Emma, you need help. Sit down, Sarah. My voice was still. You'll want to be sitting for this. I connected the USB and turned the laptop so they could all see. The footage began to play. The room fell silent except for the soft audio from the security video. We watched Sarah enter the pharmacy, watched her methodically switch my medications. I played multiple clips, showing different dates, different instances of the same calculated tampering. Mom's face had gone pale. Dad sat frozen, his coffee cup halfway to his mouth. Sarah's perfect mask finally cracked. That's not what it looks like, she stammered. I was trying to help. Those medications are too strong. I was replacing them with natural alternatives. Natural alternatives? I laughed bitterly. I could have died, Sarah. My condition isn't something you can treat with vitamins. Sarah, Dad's voice was barely a whisper. Tell me you didn't. Of course she did, I said. And this isn't the first time she's tried to hurt me, but it is the last. Mom finally found her voice. There must be some explanation. Sarah would never. Stop it, Mom, I shouted, years of frustration boiling over. Stop defending her. The proof is right in front of you. Your perfect daughter could have killed me, and you're still trying to make excuses. Sarah's face suddenly changed, her expression turning ugly. You took everything from me, she spat. That promotion was supposed to be Mark's. We had plans, a future mapped out, and you ruined it. You've always been the sick one, the one everyone had to worry about, the one who got all the attention. The room fell silent again, but this time it was heavy with the weight of Sarah's confession. Attention, I repeated quietly. You think I wanted this condition? Wanted to spend my life managing medications and doctor's appointments? And I earned that promotion, Sarah.
My illness didn't get me that job.
My hard work did. Dad stood up slowly, his face ashen. "I've called the police," he said, his phone still in his hand. "They're on their way." "Daddy, no." Sarah jumped up, but Mom's hand shot out, grabbing her arm. "Don't," Mom said, her voice breaking. "Don't make this worse." For the first time in my life, I saw my sister's perfect facade completely crumble. As we waited for the police to arrive, I watched my family's carefully constructed image of normalcy shatter into a million pieces. But beneath the pain and betrayal, I felt something else: relief. Finally, the truth was out. The sound of sirens grew closer, and Sarah began to cry, real tears this time, not the calculated ones she usually used to get her way. But as I watched her mascara run, I felt no satisfaction, no triumph, only a deep, aching sadness for what could have been and what was now irreparably broken. The weeks following Sarah's arrest were a blur of police statements, legal meetings, and family tension. The story made local headlines. Pharmacist discovers sister's medication tampering plot. Sarah's perfect reputation crumbled as more truths came to light. During the investigation, other disturbing facts emerged. The police found a diary in Sarah's apartment detailing her resentment toward me, plans to sabotage my career, and even notes about researching my medications interactions. Mark, her fiancé, came forward with text messages showing she planned to blame him for the tampering if caught. "I had no idea she was capable of this," Mark told the investigators, looking shaken. "She kept saying Emma didn't deserve the promotion. But this is insane." My parents struggled to cope with the reality of who their perfect daughter really was. Mom spent days in bed, emerging only to attend Sarah's court appearances. Dad threw himself into work, unable to face the truth of how his favoritism had contributed to this nightmare. One evening, about a month after Sarah's arrest, Mom came to my apartment. She looked older, the perfect makeup and styled hair replaced by dark circles and gray roots. "I found these," she said, placing a box on my coffee table. "Your old medical journals, the ones where you documented your symptoms." I remained silent, watching as she opened one of the notebooks. "You wrote about days when Sarah told everyone you were faking sick to get attention, days when you could barely stand. And her voice broke, I believed her over you." "You always believed her over me," I said quietly. Mom wiped her eyes. "I was so invested in the idea of having a perfect daughter that I couldn't see what she really was or what I was doing to you." She pulled out another item from her bag, a newspaper clipping about my promotion to head pharmacist. "This should have been on our fridge, not just another thing we dismissed." "I'm so sorry, Emma." It wasn't enough to erase years of hurt, but it was a start. The trial was brief, but intense. Sarah pleaded guilty to medication tampering charges. Faced with overwhelming evidence, her lawyer tried to paint a picture of a stressed young woman who made a mistake, but the judge wasn't swayed. The premeditated nature of these actions shows a disturbing pattern of behavior, the judge declared. "This wasn't a mistake. It was a calculated attempt to harm someone who trusted you." Sarah was sentenced to 5 years in prison with mandatory psychiatric evaluation. As they led her away, she turned to look at me one last time. The perfect mask was gone, replaced by something raw and broken. "I'm sorry," she whispered, but I couldn't tell if she was sorry for what she'd done or sorry she got caught. Life gradually found a new rhythm. The hospital board, after reviewing the case, offered me an expanded role overseeing pharmacy safety protocols. I used my experience to implement new security measures for prescription handling. Dad started attending therapy, finally confronting his role in enabling Sarah's behavior. One session, he asked me to join him. "I failed you," he admitted, his voice rough with emotion. "I was so busy defending Sarah that I never defended you. Not when you were sick, not when you needed me. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I see it now." My parents sold their house, too haunted by memories of family dinners where Sarah held court while I sat quietly, managing my symptoms. They bought a smaller place, and slowly, we began building a different kind of relationship, one based on truth rather than appearances. Joe, my mentor from Valley Grove Pharmacy, became a regular dinner guest, filling the role of supportive family member that Sarah never truly occupied. He helped me establish a support group for people affected by medication tampering, turning our experience into something that could help others. A year after Sarah's sentencing, I received a letter from her. The perfect handwriting was the same, but the words were different. "I spent my whole life competing with you," she wrote, "trying to be the perfect daughter because I thought that's what would make them love me more. I couldn't stand that you succeeded despite your illness, while I needed to tear you down to feel special. I'm working with my therapist now, trying to understand why I became this person. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I finally see the truth. You were never my competition. You were just my sister, and I destroyed that." I filed the letter away, not ready to respond, but acknowledging the small step it represented. My condition still required daily medication, but now I filled my prescriptions at the hospital pharmacy where I worked, surrounded by colleagues who knew my story and watched out for me. Sometimes, during quiet moments, I looked at old family photos and mourned for what our family could have been. But then I'd look at my life now, built on truth, strength, and genuine relationships, and realized that sometimes broken things, when rebuilt, become stronger at the mended places. My sister's betrayal had shattered our family's perfect facade. But from those pieces, we were building something real, something that could last, and that was worth more than perfection ever could.